So as humans, we have senses. We have our five senses to shape and work out our reality and surroundings. For example, we see, hear, we touch. If you touch fire, it burns. You learn not to touch it again. So I also say, if you were dropped in the middle of a field and you've never been here before, would you automatically assume that you're moving? Of course not. So we build an understanding of our world through our God-given senses. Truth, however, well, that's something we take for granted, perhaps by the men in power, those in academia, by which everything seems to be judged these days. And of course the television. We look at the television, we see things we've never experienced before, never even been to. And of course, some people prefer comforting lies rather than the unpleasant, harsh realities of truth. And for some of you, it may cause an uneasy feeling. It's called cognitive dissonance, and it's where new information is presented against your core belief and you cannot deal with it. And it happens a lot with this particular subject. So, with that in mind, this is where we all think we live, or we used to. Show of hands, how many people still think they live on a globe? Excellent. There's a few of you in the there's a few of you in the thing. So madam, just keep your hand up. I saw your hand there. Because we've lived on that all of our lives, we must know a few tiny bits about it, right? Must do. How big is it? What's the circumference of it? You don't know. Okay. Don't worry. You're going to get this one. How fast does it spin? You're going to get it. Come on.
I don't believe that it spins.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And how fast do you think it's moving through the sky chasing the sun? Okay, don't worry. Okay, all right. Well, what we have is this scientific model where they're expecting you to have a circumference Earth of nearly 25,000 miles, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, traveling through the endless vacuum of pointless space around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. Very interesting number. While the sun goes through pretend universe at about 500,000 miles an hour, carrying all of that in its wake. There you go. But what it is simple things we should know about the globe. We haven't got a clue. We don't know the things that we are programmed to believe. Very interesting. So could there be a possibility that we've been deceived? Well, you know, you've just lived through 4 years of the worst nonsense you could possibly imagine. So without any shadow of a doubt, of course they're lying. They lie about everything. The Earth's flat. It's a stationary plane. That's it. It's measured flat. All maps, all charts, all measurements of the Earth are done on a flat plane, not a globe. Quite interesting. It's not a moving ball. It's not in space. That's pretend. And we've all been continually lied to about it. Because from recorded history, the beginning of recorded history, and perhaps for thousands and thousands of years, all cultures believed and knew that the Earth was flat. All of their geographical land masses were virtually identical. They all believed it to be a flat, stationary, disc-shaped plane, apart from obviously one stupid people. This is a depiction commonly known as the flat Earth. Now, all ancient cultures believed that the North Pole was the magnetic centre right in the middle of the disc-shaped plane. And it was situated, above that was situated the North Star, Polaris, and it was the only star in the sky that never moved. The ancients thought the stars came in two kinds, the fixed stars and the wandering stars. Fixed stars, of course, because you see them every night. They're exactly the same, year in, year out, century after century. The wandering stars, however, slightly different. They, such as Mars, Jupiter, and all the God-named planets, they have unique paths, unique spirographic, cymatic patterns all over our flat plane. This is Venus, and after its 11-year cycle, it creates the flower of life over our flat plane. In fact, they all do something rather weird. Mercury makes an apple shape, Venus we know, Mars looks like a toroidal field, Jupiter I have no idea, but they all do these specific cycles. Now, our ancestors thought the sun and the moon were the same size, and they revolved around us just as it appears. And they were much closer and smaller than we're told today. They understood the sun to be a warm, antiseptic, nourishing light, and the moon to be a cold and damaging opposite light. By the way, the yin-yang symbol is created over the flat disc-shaped plane by the sun's shadow, which lengthens and shortens over its journey for its cycle. Now, the ancient cultures said that the sun began its journey at the Tropic of Capricorn, which is our winter solstice, which is December, obviously, December the 21st, where it makes its fastest and its widest circle over our Earth. And for the next 3 months, every day, the sun slightly narrows its path and slows its speed until the spring equinox, where it jumps from the Tropic of Capricorn to the equator. Now, tighter and slower still, and for the next 3 months, the sun tightens its angle and slows down until our summer solstice, where it jumps from the equator to the Tropic of Cancer. Now, our summer solstice is June the 21st. This is why it makes its slowest and tightest circle. This is why we get the light. This is why we get light in June, the way we get it up until very late. Obviously in the winter, it's going out around the Tropic of Capricorn, we don't get much light. So they understood the moon to have similar paths of the sun, that the cycles were longer, and the speed seemed more constant than that of the sun. So, for centuries, and throughout all existence, to be fair, ancient man knew the Earth to be the centre of the universe, to which all the stars, the sun and the moon, all revolved around a motionless fixed plane in a dome-like pattern. Now, some cultures believe the literal physical dome or firmament, which the fixed stars are attached, and other cultures mythologize that the centre point was the tree of life and the branches would be the constellations. Now, they also believed in the southern circumference of their disc-shaped plane was surrounded by ice, which kept the oceans in. Beyond this ice wall, some cultures believe there was more land, and some cultures believe there's a solid dome acting as the end stopping point for the flat Earth. Now, some maps here, what you'll see, this is the Gleason's map of 1892. You'll notice the continents all laid out. You can see South America there, Australia over there. You cannot see Antarctica, because Antarctica becomes the wall of ice that surrounds that disc-shaped plane. This is a map 1,000 years old, allegedly to have been in a Tibetan monk's possession, as it were, where you can see inside where our land masses are, with land masses outside. This map is 1547 Urbano Monte map, again incredibly strange. This map's from the 1920s, magnetic centre north, journeys east and west become circles. Okay, remember that. Now, of course, this ice wall, nobody knows what lies beyond it for sure, because we're prevented from finding out by something called the Antarctic Treaty, which we'll get to a little bit later. But we can confirm a few things. We can confirm there are ice walls. There are many ice walls in and around Antarctica. We can confirm Polaris is the only star in the sky that never moves, as done by many, many star trails. You can do it yourself. If you don't know where Polaris is, you all know where the plough is. Not sure if you can see that. The last star in the plough pot, if you go straight up, you'll find Polaris. You can do it yourself. Now, we can obviously see and measure the stars in their same formations every night. We've done it for years. And of course, we can confirm the sun's journey through the tropics, which we have done. The Flat Earthers in 2017, we tracked the sun, completely tracked the sun across the entire plane. And we can confirm every single movement for it. Lastly, we can confirm the Earth doesn't move. It's completely motionless, and the horizon remains perfectly flat as far as the eye can see. Now, the horizon always appears to rise to your eye level, no matter how high you are. This is me, Tenerife, probably a bit tipsy, looking out to the wonderful seascape we have there. And you'll see about 50 feet up, it's risen to, apparently, to my eye level. This is me 5,000 feet up in Tenerife, same thing. And you'll see the same on an aeroplane, okay? Everywhere you are, it will always appear to rise to your eye level. Now, it doesn't happen. What you'll find, there is no drop in the horizon. This simple test is what you should see on the left if you're on the globe. You don't, you see what's on the right. And in fact, there's no scientific test at all that can measure curvature of Earth. None. They've all failed. In fact, some have proven the complete opposite, to show it's flat, and of course it doesn't move, as we shall discover. So, the history of flat Earth, let's get cracking. 500 BC, Pythagoras. Around 500 BC, Pythagoras was considered to be perhaps the first Freemason. He was fully entrenched in the mystery schools of Greece. Great research on him if you haven't done it already. He first theorised the Earth could be spinning around by simply stating, if it was, then the sky and the heavens could be explained. That sort of thing never got out of Greece for the next 2,000 years. This man, 400 BC, Aristotle, he thought the Earth was flat, as a lot of people do, because he could see ships going over what he thought was a horizon, the curved horizon of the Earth, when it's still widely held as a proof of today. However, simple binoculars, camera, or telescope will bring the entire vessel back into view all the time. It's not a globe, it's simply the vanishing point and your eye's perspective to see further. That's why the Nikon P1000 is now being completely discontinued, and they struck a deal with NASA. Weird, never know. Now, history tells us in about 250 BC that a geographer, mathematician called Eratosthenes tells of an experiment which is claimed as proof of a spherical Earth. This is bizarre. In a place called Syene, which is now Aswan in Egypt, he knew that at solar noon, when it's over your head, it doesn't cast a shadow. So his well would not cast a shadow. However, he had a friend in 250 BC, 575 miles away. They'd obviously had a meet up. He said, right, at this particular time, I want you to measure the angle from your wall, 575 miles away, exactly at that time. Obviously had, I don't know, BC cell phones or something, Greek cell phones. Of course, he wanted to measure the angle. He measured the angle, factored in some distances, and ta-da! History books tell us that's how he got a globe. Well, it's ridiculous. That experiment is exactly the same. You get exactly the same reading on a flat surface with a small and close light source. Absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, the sun moves, we don't. So his friend in Alexandria, 575 miles away, would have had his solar noon a full 12 minutes before it got to his power. Absolutely ridiculous. This type of experiment, of course, is ridiculous, and it was even more so until the invention of this wonderful item, which is a nautical sextant. Now, using sextants and plain trigonometry, not only is this tool used for celestial navigation, you can measure the sun's angle at 2 different points on Earth simultaneously. And once you factor in those distances with Pythagorean maths, you can reveal the height and dimensions of the sun. This has been done repeatedly many, many times, and using this method, both the sun and the moon have been repeatedly calculated at approximately a diameter of 32 miles and 3,000 miles away from the Earth. You can do it yourself if you understand that. Now, obviously, they tell us the sun is 93 million miles away, and they all shout, refraction, refraction. It's not refraction. This is how the light is. If you follow the light rays up, that is where your sun's source is coming. This is called crepuscular rays. Shouldn't be happening on this Earth. All light is supposed to come in parallel. It does not. Hot spot on the sun. Another one there, lovely flat horizon. Now, they also, because they tell us the sun is 93 million miles away, the sun size should never change. Should never change that far away. It really does. You can see it. You see it all the time. If you, in various parts of the world, you can see the sun go, 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 get smaller, smaller, and literally disappears. It cannot hold its light. So, after Mr. Eratosthenes, of course, all those theories vanished for nearly 2,000 years. Everyone knew the Earth was flat. Till this chap. Portuguese gentleman, Freemason, Ferdinand Magellan, claimed to sail around the world, and he did. Everyone's done it. The problem is you go east to west. Oh, you go east to west because, as we said earlier with the map, you have to point your compass to north and adjust each time. So east and west become circles around our flat plane. Hundreds of people have done it. No one has gone from the middle, north to south, and then come back underneath. No one. However, Freemason, dirty, horrible Freemason, Ranulph Fiennes, says he has. There are no entry and exit points at all for his crossing. He's a liar. Antarctica, of course, being patrolled by the military under the orders of these people, the United Nations. Fun fact, you've all seen the flat Earth. You just probably never realised. That's it. That is the flat Earth, where they hide things in plain sight. As they do, they like to mock us. Now, moving on, 1543, this particularly handsome gentleman, Nicholas Copernicus, revealed a book a couple of days before he died called On the Revolutions of Celestial Spheres, where he fancifully revived Pythagoras' Freemasonic sun-centered heliocentric nonsense. The book told of a spinning globe, tilted, wobbling, moving, and his book clearly was laughed at by his peers. One being Tycho Brahe. He said that if Copernicus thought the Earth was a globe spinning and moving all the time, why don't the stars show any signs of parallax? Well, they stayed the same all the time, as you know. So in the pretend Copernican model, what he did to counter that was simply make up numbers and place the stars millions, billions and trillions of miles away so that it would be detected as if they weren't moving. And of course, you can't see something that far away. You can't see something that far away, so you have to make it big, enormous, trillions of miles in diameter. Everything and all of those things he did completely fabricated, completely made up. He did, however, Copernicus offer some distances to the sun. He proclaimed, without a shadow of a doubt, that the sun was 3,391,200 miles away. Interesting. 1573, Tycho Brahe, Danish astronomer, was financed by Emperor Rudolf II. He was funded a most lavish observatory for its time. No money seemed to be spared, and Tycho Brahe was famed for making observational science of the stars, trying to understand how the ancients knew and what the cosmologies of the heavens were. Now, around the same time, this person, Johannes Kepler, Freemason, was a student of these occult-influenced Copernicus theories, and he worked for Brahe. Kepler's beliefs were said to have caused heated exchanges, and eventually he was fired. Get out of my observatory. Well, a year later, after much grovelling ensued, Kepler was taken back by Brahe. 1 month later, Tycho Brahe is dead, killed, as they say, by Kepler. Now, this is the thing, Kepler became then the Freemasons' leading imperial astronomer, absorbing all that data to fit Copernican theories. But Kepler, he had distances to the sun as well, so, 12,376 miles. That's what he thought. Okay. 1608, another challenger to the flat stationary plane was an Italian chap called Galileo, who, among many things, made telescopes. He's also famed for his writings about the tide and the pull of the water that makes them, whilst the Earth is constantly moving in an upward direction, spinning around the sun. This movement, he said, caused the displacement of the water that created the tides. Nah. Sadly, it's ridiculous. Tides only affect salt water. They don't affect large lakes or large bodies of water. So that was the end of that. However, he did make telescopes, and he positively smashed Aristotle's theory that boats went over the horizon 2,000 years ago. 1687. Here we go. Sir Isaac Newton, Freemason, wrote a book called Principia Mathematica, which presented his idea of gravity to the world for the first time. Now, for many years, the idea of a spinning ball going through pretend space at breakneck speed was clearly a joke to the scientific community at the time. So in order to counter that, Sir Isaac Newton invented gravity. Bizarre. Newtonian gravity is the idea that a molten spinning magnetic core in this crazy pretend globe-shaped Earth attracts everything to the centre of it. The problem we have with this is man has only ever drilled down in the world 7.6 miles, nearly 8 miles. That's it. It's another, another 22 miles just to get through the crust. And they're going to tell you that 6,000 kilometres away there's a great big bubbling core of nonsense. Now, a molten metal in any state doesn't hold any magnetic charge, so it doesn't cause a magnetic field either. It's a joke, it's made up, that's why you always see cartoon pictures. And it was at this time that he was criticised for his occult influences in his work. Freemasons, anyone? Right, gravity is merely density and buoyancy. But of course, with that pseudoscience comes problems because you're making up numbers in your calculations. And of course, Newton, after he'd done all these calculations and further development, they realised that those calculations would create a giant singularity and the whole universe would be squashed into oblivion. So to counter that, they invented something else called dark energy. Now, the calculations when they invented that and added that to it showed that it would expand so quick it would rip the entire fabric of space and time or whatever nonsense they said. So to balance that, they made up something else called dark matter, which holds the graviton dark energies together. It's all made up and it's all an imaginary psyop, I'm sorry to say. Okay. Bear with me. Now you have to understand here that we're told he sat under a tree and the apples fell down on his head, etc., etc., etc. Now, the problem you have with that is what calculations did he have for the apples still on the tree? And what calculations would he have had if an apple had fallen in the water? He said, gravity works. Oh, shit. Because it would come straight back up. So, but Newton had the distances to the sun, though. Don't worry about it. He actually said, if it's 28 million or 54 million miles away, it makes no difference at all. Okay. So Sir Isaac Newton, there he is. Okay. Now, this is your science from Freemasonic heliocentric people. 3 million miles to where we are now. That's it's a 100 million mile difference in 500 years. That's how your science works. 1773, Captain Cook, first man to breach the Antarctic coastline and reach the large ice wall. They tell us it's a small island on the bottom of the spinning globe. However, Captain Cook reached it, sailed over 60,000 miles to find an inlet to this ice wall, and he didn't. Now, 60,000 miles is clearly twice the size, nearly 3 times the size of what they tell us the Earth is. So, ridiculous. 1783, the hot air balloon was invented, so for the first time in recorded history, people were able to float above the Earth's surface, see for themselves once and for all if it was flat or a globe. And of course, it's flat as far as the eye can see. Even more crazy stuff. 1797, Henry Cavendish, the British scientist, Freemason, a wealthy grandson of the Duke of Devonshire, created an experiment where he said he could successfully prove the existence of gravity. He could measure its constant, and he could provide accurate figures for the masses of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, and all of the planets. Well, how did he do this? What technological leap did he do? He balanced 2 lead balls on a torsion balance in his shed, and he observed through the window with his telescope to make some calculations, and bang, he solved the problem. It's ridiculous, absolutely insane. It's still used as a proof today. But in 1851, a French chap by the name of Leon Foucault did an equally ridiculous experiment, still in some museums today. He explained that if the Earth were turning, we could do it via a pendulum. We could do it. And the pendulum they use is allegedly goes in a degree, 15 degrees every hour, or whatever it's supposed to move on the Earth. However, it's the most insane thing that they believe that to be true. Because if you're saying the reference point is turning underneath a pendulum, why doesn't it work for a helicopter? Okay, it's a scam. It's not a real thing. Now, moving forward, 1864, a book called Synthetic Astronomy was written and published by a chap called Samuel Rowbotham. Now, he was an inventor and author. He's famed for his Bedford level experiment, where down in Cambridge there's a 20-mile canal called the Old Bedford. Now, the water has no interruptions, no locks, no gates. It's a perfect experiment to see if it's suitable for determining whether there's any curvature. Now, in spherical trigonometry, if you believe it's a globe, you have to believe that the water curves down a measurable 8 inches per mile squared. Now, this means along the 6-mile channel that he had, he put his flags at each mile. His telescope was 8 inches above the water. And what he should have seen was the top one. You see the first couple, and then the curve will take it down. 6 miles, by the way, is a curvature formula of 24 feet and 1 inch. So from one end to the other, he would probably see the first 3 or 4. But of course, he saw all 6, so he could see for 6 miles. It sort of proves that there's no curvature. Sometimes it's just the perspective of your eyes to see. Okay, 1871. After so much pressure from members of the public at that time to address claims of these crazy flat earthers, Royal Astronomical Society President George Airy devised an experiment which he hoped would prove Earth's motion once and for all. He filled his telescope with water to allow the light to come in and be slowed down. Made some calculations on when he would need to move the telescope to allow the light in. Well, sadly, he left the telescope there, the sky was moving and the light was coming in. Proved there was no motion and no spin. But in 1887, American physicists Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, they did an experiment to determine Earth's speed through space, and they passed some light through a couple of pathways, one in the alleged direction of the Earth, one at right angles to it. Of course, the one at right angles to it should have taken less time to come back. Sorry about the text messages. Thank you. And of course, they couldn't prove any motion of the Earth. Albert Einstein himself said, the motion of the Earth cannot be observably detected. This takes us to 1900. And by this time, the globe model is dead. It's completely dead. Everyone was teaching flat Earth. Everybody knew what it was. The problem is in 1900, this is bizarre because this article reads, let me read it. It's painful to read that Sir John Gorst, the head of the British Educational Department, is in serious trouble and has been threatened by Mr. Ebenezer Breach and other taxpayers of the city of Portsmouth in the United Kingdom with prosecutions under the Impostors Act. It seems that the schools of Portsmouth have been teaching the damnable and heretical doctrine that the Earth is a sphere. This is 1900. I've lost my thing again. Okay. 1903. The aeroplane was invented. Great stuff. As aeroplanes had the technology to go faster and faster, perhaps even faster than the 1,000 or 700 mile an hour turn of the Earth, it was fairly obvious that nothing's moving. It's fairly obvious. Talking of planes, flight routes in the southern hemisphere are insane, okay? It doesn't make sense on a ball, it makes sense on a flat Earth only. Now, the logical way to get from Australia to Santiago would be stay in the southern hemisphere, short chop across. No. They expect you to believe it goes from there, the whole distance up to the northern hemisphere, twice the distance back down to the southern hemisphere. It doesn't. It makes perfect sense as almost straight lines on a flat map. Exactly the same, Johannesburg to Perth, southern hemisphere, all the way up to the northern hemisphere and back down. It wouldn't make any sense. But on a flat map, it makes perfect sense. Now, 1916. This chap, he wrote a theory on general relativity. And in one fell swoop at that time, with enormous media marketing for his works, the globe idea was put firmly back into the focus of the population. And at that time, there was a Rockefeller studied or produced educational system that they were just putting into all the schools. The problem is, this man, like all good actors, was a terrible person. He's a plagiarist, a cross-dressing patent clerk. He married his first wife. He paid her off with his $100,000 Nobel Prize money. He married his cousin, and he was attracted to his two daughters, where he all lived, and he said, "Here's my harem." He's a fraud. He's not a genius. He's a plagiarist. He wears women's clothes, and he's a bad person. Sorry. 1927. This man. This man is called Jorge Lemaitre. He is a Jesuit priest. And this is the man in 1927 that first brought everybody's attention to the Big Bang. Okay, now not the TV comedy. We're talking a specific situation where back in time, where nobody knows, only nothing existed, nothing at all. And then for some reason, at one time that nobody knows, that nothing exploded into everything you see. It's insane. Now, it's bizarre to try and work out where these people would collude together and find these ideas. Oh, right, okay, that's no problem. 1931, we're getting close now. This chap, Auguste Piccard, a Swiss physicist, he's an inventor. He was known for his record-breaking balloon flights into the higher reaches of our atmosphere. In an article in the Popular Science magazine in 1931, it describes their journey of 9 miles fraught with leaks in their big aluminium balloon, which is behind them. I have no idea what they're wearing on their heads. I think they probably wanted a photo op, they didn't have a hat, they took the waste paper bins, stuck in it. However, through the portal of the windows of his balloon, he said and states, it seemed a flat disc with an upturned edge. This is a Swiss physicist. He's a very, very important person. So I'll leave that with you. Now in 1939, we come into the outbreak of the Second World War. Rockets were going, everything was going crazy. Most of Europe and other places in the world were terrified of the V2 rocket. This is where it all starts getting a little bit strange. 1945 to 1955, something called Operation Paperclip, nice tune, granted nearly 1,000 German Nazis American citizenship. Many had been long-time members of the Nazi Party, the Gestapo, etc., etc. They all came over, worked for the CIA, NASA, and MK Ultra's mind control program. That's where they fitted in. One of these Nazi officers was a rocket designer of the V2, and he was the rocket designer for the Apollo space program. His name's Werner von Braun. We'll come to him a bit later. 1946. Operation High Jump took place, led by Admiral Richard Byrd. He was an American naval officer who specialised specifically in Antarctic exploration. He was going down there since 1928. Now, this particular expedition was something unprecedented. They went down there with 4,500 men, over 10 ships, over 30 aircraft. Something strange goes on in Antarctica. We're led to believe Operation High Jump was where they went over the ice wall and started to search the plane. 1957. No, this is not 4 Cortina aerials attached to a toilet system. This is actually, what they tell us is in 1957, Russia launched a satellite called Sputnik. There it is. Now, satellites were first theorized by Freemason Arthur C. Clarke, 1945. Fun facts about satellites. They tell us there's between 20 and 40,000 satellites zooming around a pretend globe Earth. They float in what science calls a thermosphere. Now, you have temperatures in the thermosphere of 4,500 degrees, what they tell you. Each of the metals made in all of those are considerably less than the temperatures they would have. Doesn't matter what shielding you've got, if you're 2,000 degrees more than what it is, everything would melt, crash into each other, etc. Satellites are not what you think they are. This is your satellite. You saw it on the news. You remember the big Chinese spy balloon? They're up there forever. When you see, you sometimes see, lights going across the sky, it must be a satellite. Every day, 2,000 of these weather balloons are launched every single day, forever, every day. There are thousands of them up there, and they can stay up there for an incredibly long time. The thing is, you've got the Decca and the Loran system, which are ground-based communication systems, work perfectly well before the full indoctrination of the word space and satellites. Now, nowadays, internet, fibre optic cables go everywhere. That's where you get it. Gigantic cell towers triangulate GPS signals, all ground-based, and atmospheric propagation allows radio waves to go everywhere. All before the best-selling science fiction word of satellites were invented. Okay, 1956, getting very strange now. Operation Deep Freeze 2 was conducted by our old friend Admiral Richard Byrd. And in 1958, just 2 years later, these people were formed. 1 year later, the Antarctic Treaty was put in place. Now, all of these things taking place in a very short space of time raises a few questions. Now, I was going to play you this. We have no sound. This is a Longines chronoscope. I mean, I'll play it. I'll try and tell you what he says. This is Admiral Byrd telling you about his Antarctic expeditions. And they're asking him, they're saying, you know, he's a great guy, blah, blah, blah. Is there any, what's going on? And he says, well, there's not so much more land in the north, that's militarily used, but he said in the south, there is a land bigger than the United States, which no one has ever seen. Okay, you have to understand these things. He is telling you, somewhere beyond Antarctica where he's gone, there is a land as big as the United States, which no one has ever seen. So what could all these Antarctic expeditions really be? Had it enabled mankind to find further lands? Maybe. That's okay. Or maybe they found the dome edge. Maybe they found something. We don't know. There is small evidence, by the way. A chap called George Rayner, he was a biologist and a photographer, went down to Antarctica in 1920 to take pictures. This is one of the pictures. It's incredibly, you can't see it here, but the sky is incredibly compelling. Get online, go and look at all the pictures yourself. So what they found down there, they were obviously going to keep it from you and me. The Antarctic Treaty. Look at that room. 1st of December 1959, it was signed by 12 countries who were down in Antarctica doing what they call the Great Geophysical Year, 57-58. The treaty was ratified in 1961, and it is the only treaty that's still in place today. Okay? You have to understand, the whole world is at war, almost. It's a whole crap show out there. This treaty will never be broken. You cannot independently travel to Antarctica. You cannot. You can pay thousands of pounds to get on that peninsula tip, look at some penguins, go back in your boat and go. You're never going to be independently allowed to go over the ice wall to find anything else. Not allowed to do it. So if they truly found the edge, then surely there must be a top. And our prehistory ancient civilizations must be correct. So what were the implications? Well, in 1962, they began to find out with something called Operation Fishbowl. Unbelievable. It was part of a series of tests under Project Dominic, and America and Russia were sending up massive, massive rockets and detonating them, as far as we're concerned, on the dome. There's a lot about it. Unfortunately, we don't have the sound. This is a whole thing about it. The Atomic Defense Agency in America, they are quite happy to tell you. They were doing this for 4 years straight. For me, I think they were mapping our roof. It's not really good, isn't it? There you go. Atomic Defense Support Agency, and it will tell you it's Project Fishbowl, and then we'll go from there. Better with the sound, honestly. There you go, Operation Fishbowl. There's plenty about it online. Now, it's the late 60s, and space travel, firmly in the minds of the public with TV, you've got Star Trek, you've got all sorts of stuff coming out. The programming is really good. However, we're out in 1969, NASA and the fake moon landings. Anybody here think we landed on the moon, went to the moon as described? Show of hands, please. One at the back, one over there. You behave. You behave. Is there anyone who's not my friend or family trying to wind me up that believes we went to the moon? Is that you, sir? You believe we went to the moon as described?
I don't now really, but I was 66, so I watched people.
Okay, cool. Firstly, before NASA was formed, it was made up of various companies. One of them was called Jet Propulsion Laboratories, run by this crazy guy. He's called Jack Parsons. Now, he was a very good friend with this guy, L. Ron Hubbard of Scientology fame, who at the time was the most published author in the world. Those two, apart from many other things, were told to be doing ritual sex magic in the Nevada desert and all sorts of crazy stuff. Now, they were devout followers of this guy, Aleister Crowley, Britain's most evil, satanistic man. That's what they call him. That's what everybody called him, that we've ever had. Now, Aleister Crowley also had a follower, this guy, second in from the right, Mr. Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney was friends with our man, Werner von Braun, our Nazi. They used to make space travel fantasy videos in the 50s and 60s, all the way through. It's quite clear. Disney does the programming for children, the satanic programming for children. NASA does it for the adults. The actual word NASA in Hebrew means to deceive, to be deceived. Crazy. And secondly, Freemasons and the mystery schools are the reasons that knowledge is kept from us. And to be an astronaut back in the day in the Apollo program, you were selected and you had to be a Freemason. You were protecting secret knowledge and you were about to lie to the world. This is a picture of our famous astronauts coming back to do their very first press conference after man's greatest achievement. Look how happy they are. They're about to lie. Buzz Aldrin is an admitted ring-wearing, hand-sign flashing 33-degree Freemason from the Montclair Lodge in New Jersey. Edgar Mitchell is a Freemason at the Arteta Lodge in New Mexico. James Irwin was a Tijuana Lodge member in Colorado Springs. Don Eisel was a Luther B. Turner Lodge in Ohio. Gordon Cooper, Master Mason in Colorado. Virgil Grissom, do you remember that one?
Yes.
He stuck a lemon on the lunar lander because he knew it was a load of nonsense. He died. They killed him. They blew him up in the machine. They set him on fire with his other things, making it absolutely abundantly clear you do not lie about this. You follow the program or you die. The list goes on. Fred Kleinecht, who was the head of NASA during the Apollo program, shortly thereafter this nonsense happened, became the sovereign grand commander of the Council of the 33rd degree of ancient and accepted rite of Scottish Freemasonry. That was his promotion for it. Alan Shepard, William Pogue, Neil Armstrong, Vance Brand, Anthony England, all had fathers who were Freemasons as well. It's too much of a coincidence to say it's random. You have very many pictures of these crazy people. There you go, on the globe, get the programming in. Oh, here we are on the moon. If this is a Freemasonic ritual for the lander, there's another one. You'll notice the aprons, Google Mail, that's where your Freemasonic Google Mail symbol comes from. This is ridiculous. This is an actual picture from NASA of the Apollo lunar landing mission profile. They like to use phallic symbols beyond doubt. That's an official image. It's crazy. Here they are, taking a bit of a break on the moon for a photo shot. This is insane. This is Buzz Aldrin in a zero-G plane in '69 with the lunar lander behind him. But I'm sure they're just training, right? This is the lunar lander. Holy moly. Look at it. Look at it. Please look at it. It's roofing felt paper. Look. Look at that. Look at how they don't join in. This is in the harshest environment of space. It wouldn't last a day in the rain. And they expect you to believe this is what took them home. Come on. If you've not looked into the power and evilness of Freemasonry, and I'm not talking the local lodge where you scratch each other's back and they'll cut your hair and you get, you know, whatever. No. This might be more important. George Washington was a Freemason first. Oh, and of course he's the first president of the country. Freemason first. Absolutely crazy. All presidents, MPs, people that rise to any sort of political power, they're all mouthpiece controllers. They're Freemasons, or they're all connected to another brotherhood or sisterhood. Here's some more Masons manufacturing the globe at Studland. Unbelievable. Okay, so from 1969 to 1972, these Freemasons at NASA claim to have landed 6 of their Apollo missions on the moon. 6. With a bit of ingenious deception and some rocket technology from our man, Werner von Braun, these lying Freemasons took photographs through a window of a high-altitude plane. And with this one psyop, NASA convinced nearly everyone on Earth we live on a globe. However, in this documentary, which you're not going to hear, I'll tell you about it. A piece of footage was given to the requesters of all the NASA information. This was sent by mistake. This is unbelievable. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. You can get it still online. It's called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, where it shows Buzz, Neil, and the other one manufacturing and staging, you can't see it, pictures through the window of the Earth. It's not funny. They were doing it for an hour, using transparencies and camera tricks. And the woman who narrates this says, don't make the mistake that they are trying to deceive you. They are pretending to be from Earth, manufacturing pictures of a globe Earth through a window. It's utterly insane. It's a shame you can't hear it, but this is the actual techniques they were using. If you look now, the Earth is moving it all around, right? They're at a window with card, and they're trying to take a picture to convince and lie to you about the shape of the Earth. Now, the images showing the globular world soon became the Freemasons' most valuable tool in altering the public's perception about the shape of the Earth. Now, these NASA images, these are bottoms of frying pans. These NASA images are all completely different. Make your mind up, NASA. What does the Earth look like? In 2012, down here, America was half the size of the globe. In 2015, not so much. All the colours, all the stuff is absolutely ridiculous. Now, they look different because of this guy. This guy, in 2012, he's called Robertson, was responsible for creating the latest in a long line of the fake images called the Blue Marble Earth Shot. Now, you remember the iPhone? That image on the iPhone, the globe, the programming continued. There are lots of interviews with this guy telling you exactly what he does to make those images. They're not photographs. They're all photoshopped. Happy days. One of the things he says in many of the interviews is the hardest thing we had to wrap a flat map around a ball to make it. He tells you. He actually tells you. Now, that's how he does it. This is what they put the flat Earth into. Very simple. All the calculations can be done through a globe. Lots of problems they have in the southern hemisphere, though. And this is how they do it. And of course, since that time, NASA have given you hundreds of videos, pictures, CGI nonsense that can sort of give veritable photographic proof, perhaps, of Pythagoras' 2,500-year-old theory. Now, with a skeptical eye, however, professional photo analysis have dissected hundreds of NASA images, you can't get them anymore, of a ball, found undeniable proof of manipulation, photo manipulation, rectangular cuts. If you put you can do it I still think you can do it. If you get a picture of a satellite in space that they tell you is an official NASA image, get the contrast levels and the brightness levels and play with them. You will see rectangular cuts in nearly everything. What's the point? If that's a real photo, why do you want to fake it? That's it, it's done. Of course it's not. So here you go. This is them pretending to go to the moon, I guess, or lying about it. You got some runners there where the cameras would go. Obviously doing some work there. The moon is translucent. It's not a solid object. You couldn't land on it even if you wanted to. If you look at the moon in the daytime, you look at the craters, they take on the exact same colour as the sky behind it. There's plenty of footage, apparent footage, showing stars occulting the moon, or being shining through the moon. And 2 days every month, there's no moon. It's called the new moon. It cannot be seen anywhere on the Earth. You cannot land on the light. Now, people tell us that the moon's round, it must be a sphere. It looks like one, must be a sphere. Well, just some simple stuff. You'll see the other balls there. This is how light works. On a sphere, you have an intense part of the bright light, and then the light falls away around the curve. With the moon, when it's full, you have equal light all the way around it. I don't think it's a sphere, more likely a disc. I don't know. But they tell you it's a sphere. It can't be because of the way light dissipates. There's many countries with their flags showing perhaps stars through the moon. Now, this moon thing, surely there must be loads of evidence that we can get to. All the telemetry data could have been gathered. No, all lost, all destroyed. Not one reel, not 10 reels, 13,000 reels. Managed to just destroy them, which seems to be a bit convenient. Now, I was going to, obviously, to tell you this is John Pettit. He's a NASA astronaut. He is absolutely ridiculous. What he says is basically that I'd love to go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but we can't because we've destroyed all the technology and it's a painful process to build it back again. But we're going to put a helicopter on Mars. Okay. I was going to say the word retarded, but I was told not to. Now, this picture, 1965. How on earth could you get Arthur C. Clarke, Stanley Kubrick, some NASA astronauts and the head of the project in one photograph? 1965. What the hell were they going to do? There you go. Lastly, with the moon. Science tells us the moon reflects the sunlight. It doesn't. It produces its own cold light. Measure it yourself, get some thermometers, get the moon shade and the moonlight. There is a marked difference in the temperature, clearly showing that the moon does not reflect warm sunlight. It produces its own cold light. The faking in space is fundamental to make you all believe in a pretend universe, a big bang, an evolution, space, planets, blah, blah, blah. They're making you feel insignificant and small, that there's a billion other planets just like ours. You're not important. That's wrong. You're very important, and you are all at the center of the universe. That's it. NASA and the space agencies control the higher regions of the sky. They protect it from inquiring minds or independent would-be explorers. Fake space creates that insignificance and hides the roof. Antarctic Treaty creates travel restrictions and hides the signs. However, you must understand something. We are in an enclosed environment. You are not in space, whatever. You are enclosed. You all breathe pressurized air. You cannot have low pressure or gas pressure low next to a high pressure vacuum without a solid barrier. Everything would fill the available space and we'd all be sucked off the globe. Probably not the right word. And that'd be it. So you are contained. You have to understand that. It's quite a weird acknowledgement to think that you are contained in something. Okay, let's move on. 1986. I love this song. Now this explosion, 1986, was the Challenger. It was viewed by millions of people all at the same time on the television. Problem is, nobody goes to space. Nobody goes to space at all. Two female members, Judith Resnick and Sharon McCauley, are still alive, and they're still lecturing in universities today with the same names. Okay? There's a guy here called Dick Scobie. He is a managing director of a company called Cows in Trees. All of this information is online. It's unbelievable. This is how they faked it in the 80s. Okay, there's obviously sound to this which is not happening. So the narrator's saying, yeah, Dave's just doing whatever, blah, 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 yeah. And he's sat there in a studio somewhere, pretending. What they do is show you the launch of the MSAT satellite, but look at the guy beside it. Can you see the guy's face? They have giants in space. It's absolutely insane. It's such a lie. This is all a model in a studio, and unfortunately, some bloke didn't realise they were filming it. He sticks his head in and goes, "Oh shit." Okay, so it's very, very important that we can get these ridiculous things. Now that was in the 80s. And here we are, the ISS. When was that? 1988 was it? 1983, I think. 1988, that's a lie. See the construction of the ISS. No footage, no space runs, nothing. There is nothing to tell you that thing's real or built. There is nothing available. But look at them. They are NASA's finest astronauts. And if you look, you'll see window, 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 and this window is open. It's open. You can't perhaps see it there, but it's open. Don't worry, this guy's got the key. He knows what he's talking about. There's a little sign there at the back of him. It says, keep the windows closed unless you're taking pictures. Come on. It really is. It's crazy. This is an official NASA image. Very important. Look at the Earth. They forgot to Photoshop the rest of it in. That's it. Absolutely ridiculous. But this man, he's a very important NASA engineer. He's out working in the pretend satellite. He couldn't put his shoes on the right feet. He couldn't do it. You've got Band-Aid plasters here. He couldn't put his shoes. However, there's lots of alphabet agencies, CIA, MI6, all of them have documents on the shape of the Earth. But none so more than NASA themselves, which is bizarre. Okay, when flying a rigid aircraft, constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Not my words, they're NASA's words. Just saying. Okay, these guys, so they did it in the 90s, okay? Now this is in response to a pretend phone call from the space station to Earth somewhere, a school, where they say, how do you prove you're in space? And normally they do a somersault or something. They go, oh yeah, you're in space. They couldn't work. Look at that woman's hair, by the way. Just, come on, tell me. Okay, so what he does, let's do a somersault, but don't touch the wire. For God's sake, don't touch the wire. Pete, it's all going wrong. It's all going wrong. You're caught in the wire. Don't touch it. Don't pull the wire. Don't pull the wire. Don't pull the wire. Don't pull the wire. Oh shit, pull the wire. Okay. It's not even funny, okay? The Indian chants are making me laugh, sorry. Okay. This is an incredible piece of NASA footage. This is how they do it now. What they do is they use, everything's in a training pool, everything's in a studio, all the spacewalks are done in a great big swimming pool, neutral buoyancy lab. They use harnesses and wires the same as they do in films like Gravity and silly stuff, where they make it up for, I don't know, I think they made Gravity for just under $100 million. NASA gets about $70 million every single day to give you this nonsense. And what you'll see here is in the background, the layering imagery they sometimes forget. And this guy's still got his harness on. He's still got his harness on. You'll see it a little bit better now, perhaps. Still got his harness on. I think they can't always get the VR layers correct. Absolutely insane. Apart from this, there's a guinea pig on board. And in a second, you're going to see, when it goes back there, a guinea pig's going to fly. This is insane. Let's see now. There he is, the guinea pig goes across the back. We zoom in, and the man in his harness is chasing it to give you the illusion that they're in space, or it's zero gravity, but he forgets his harness. The best bit about the VR layering fail is what comes up next. You see this hat? He pretends to give him the hat via VR. He pretends to put it on the shelf. Watch this. There you go. Oh shit, thanks Dave. I'll put it up there. What? Oh my god, no. It's all VR layering and it's rubbish. They're not very good at it. This video goes on and you can zoom into his eyes and he's going, oh my god, like that. It's very funny. Here's another one. The finest is NASA's finest. They're all on in a studio somewhere, pretending to be on the space station. They're talking with French people, French whatever. Right, we'll see you later. Thanks very much. Goodbye. Oh shit! No, look, the layer's going. You can actually see the green screen behind. It's layering. It's a layering problem. They quickly cut back to wherever. Okay. To be fair, a few things you might want to consider. Stars are not suns. They are frequency points of light. They vibrate at certain frequencies. They're very small and close to us. At no point, if they were quadrillion miles away, astrology wouldn't work. There'd be no vibrational frequency point at that distance. NASA give you CGI as opposed to what you can see. Here's some stars. These are real stars. This is what you're seeing if you get a decent camera to look at it. They're crazy frequency points of light. This is Capella. Unbelievable. This looks absolutely amazing close up. We don't know what they are. They're not suns, they're not planets, they're not anything that they tell you they are. Some people think they're angels. Who knows? This is Vega. It's a shame on here because the quality is not as good as it is on here. This is unbelievable footage of the star Vega. Okay, now the thing for me that puts the nail in the coffin, you look here, CGI image of Mars, what it actually looks like through a scope. The thing that puts the nail in the coffin for the globe Earth is we can see too far, by a mile. They tell us the radius of the Earth, 3959. We can see miles. They give us the curvature formula. They tell us you can't see beyond that because it goes beyond the horizon. So they tell us all this stuff and we say, you're lying. The long distance photography is something that happens every year. You can see here, I think it's in France, they are looking at mountains 447 kilometers away. Let's say it's 300 miles. This is their formula, not ours, this is their numbers. Let's say it's 300 miles away. The object they're looking at should be 11 miles below the curvature they tell us the size of the Earth is. 11 miles, not just a little bit, a whole 11 miles. It's absolutely insane. If you want to know more about us at Flat Earth, we have our tent. Some of you have seen it. Myself, Dave, and a few others are there. Come and ask us some questions. Tell us, we'll tell you what we know. Let you go off and do your own research. We have an app, which is a Flat Earth app. It's the best repository for Flat Earth information that there is. There is no better repository for it. It's about £3. That's all. Friend finder. When you wake up to Flat Earth, you lose all your friends, most of your family. Luckily, you have a friend finder on here. So you can look in your local area of how many blue dots there are, and you can connect with the like minds if you want to. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with me on the information. I know it's a lot to take in sometimes. If you don't know you're being lied to, you will never question. You give all your power away very early, and you're taught nonsensical things to stop you critically thinking for yourself. The time of ignorance is over. Flat Earth and all the things connected to it will truly make you wake up. Flat Earth's been around forever, since the time of creation. And finally, the question that most people ask is, why? Why do they want to keep it secret? Why are they lying? Well, apart from the most obvious stuff that they do, financial control, etc., power over us, pointless little slaves, is that you realise something with Flat Earth. You realise for the first time in your life, the Earth has been created by somebody. That's a very, very important thing. There's a powerful force that there is a creator. So for me, they're hiding that creator. They're hiding God. Don't take my word for it. Let's go back to our great Nazi rocket chap, Werner von Braun. Grandfather of rocket technology, has a simple plaque. That's it. Not a great big, rocket ship sort of thing, but he has a simple plaque where he leaves us all a breadcrumb. Psalms 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Thanks very much. If you have questions, because we're pushed for time, please come over and see us at the tent. Thanks very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was absolutely fascinating. Hands up who here was on the fence or didn't believe in flat Earth before you got here.